I'm about halfway through this book.
Let's talk about it.
So far, I am really enjoying the book. If you have been around for a little while, then you'll know that I gaslit myself for a hot minute into thinking that I didn't like historical fiction, and then I started reading it again last year, especially the horror historical fiction subgenre, and now I can't stop. And Stephen Graham Jones does one of the best jobs at this specific subgenre of historical fiction. His books are so gruesome, but in the best way possible to tell the best story. And in this case, the horror element is analogy for the U.S. and very much the early U.S. Settling. And so this is about a man named Goodstab, who's a part of the Blackfeet Nation, who is telling this Lutheran pastor his story as to basically how he ended up in town and a massacre that happened. I'm going to try and talk about this without giving away too many spoilers, because apparently, I didn't realize this, but apparently one of the big reveals as a part of this book was included in the marketing of it, which is fascinating to me. So I'm not going to give that away. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just avoid it as a spoiler. I will say it's good, it's worth it. So basically, Goodstab is telling the story, but we're reading the perspective of the journal of the Lutheran pastor, because it's his great-granddaughter that discovered this journal and is reading these entries in modern day. And the book alternates between the Lutheran pastor's perspective and not even Goodstab's perspective. It's the pastor's retelling of Goodstab's story. So there is an element of how reliable is this narrator, which I personally love. I'm not sure yet how much the pastor is telling the full story of Goodstab's actual story, and we don't really know. There's also a string of murders that's happening in the town at the same time that this exchange is happening. So there's a ton of layers to the plot. There's a lot going on. And I have just been so immersed in this story. It's been hard for me to do anything else. I will say it took me a minute to get into it. I think that just the nature of you're reading the journal of a man in 1912 and also of a Native American man in the early 1900s, they alter when it's Goodstab's perspective, he speaks like the Piegani would have back in 1912. And so that took me a minute to get into. I did look up a glossary, and that helped immensely. I also think that doing the audiobook along with reading it really immersed me into the story. I almost want to go back to the beginning and redo the whole book that way, because I don't know if you guys experience this, but once you're really into a story and you're really enjoying the writing style, but it took you a second to get there, wanting to go back to the beginning so that you could feel that same feeling through the whole book. I'm not going to do that because I really want to know how it ends, but this is going to be high on my reread list. I'm really excited to read this book for the second time, which is one of my favorite experiences reading a new book, is when you can be super excited to read it again. So that's how I'm feeling so far. I really want to know if you guys have read this, what you thought, and yeah, I'll probably have a wrap-up video in a couple days.